السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استفتاء على استقلال اسكتلندا خريف عام 2014 ما زال يتصدر الصحف والأحاديث والدردشات في اسكتلندا وجوارها. الطروحات كثيرة والإشكالات لا تنتهي. رأس حربة مشروع الاستفتاء على الاستقلال في اسكتلندا الحزب الوطني الاسكتلندي ودوافعه إلى الاستقلال من الداخل. معكم زينب الصفار، تابعونا. انقلب السحر على الساحر كما يقال في المثل الشعبي، فالمملكة المتحدة التي خطت بيراعي أحد دبلوماسييها مارك سايكس اتفاقية سايكس بيكو السرية عام 1916 لتتقاسم الثروات والنفوذ في الشرق الأوسط بعد تهاوي الإمبراطورية العثمانية المسيطرة على هذه المنطقة آنذاك في الحرب العالمية الأولى، ها هي تواجه تحدي التقسيم، لكنه من الداخل، من اسكتلندا ومن الأحزاب الاسكتلندية الكبيرة الحزب الوطني الاسكتلندي، رأس حربة حملة نعم في الاستفتاء على استقلال اسكتلندا عن المملكة المتحدة في أيلول سبتمبر المقبل. حملة جوبهت بعدة تساؤلات عن أمور جوهرية إذا ما نالت اسكتلندا استقلالها. على سبيل المثال، هل تقدر اسكتلندا على أن تتحمل أعباء كونها مستقلة؟ وما هي أبرز الموارد ومواطن القوة لديها؟ ومن سيكون على رأس الدولة الاسكتلندية؟ وماذا سيحل بالموظفين الذين يعملون في المراكز والمؤسسات العامة في الدولة التي هي تابعة لحكومة ويستمنستر في المملكة المتحدة؟ كيف ستكون العملة الاسكتلندية؟ وكيف ستدافع اسكتلندا عن نفسها؟ هواجس وتساؤلات تجيب عنها إحدى قادة الحزب الوطني الاسكتلندي والنائبة في البرلمان الاسكتلندي منذ عام 99 والمدافعة الشرسة عن استقلال اسكتلندا ساندرا وايت، التي ترى أن هذا الاستقلال سيخلق اسكتلندا جديدة تحظى بنفوذ على مواردها الطبيعية وثرواتها وتأخذ قراراتها بنفسها، مثل خيار إزالة أسلحة الدمار الشامل من سواحلها، وعدم المشاركة في صراعات ونزاعات غير قانونية، وعدم فرض الضرائب الجائرة. Member of the Scottish Parliament and leading member of the Scottish National Party SNP, Ms. Sandra White, welcome to the Inside.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam, ma'am. When and how, ma'am, was the inception of the referendum of independence, the issue of independence, and why?
The issue of independence has been very much to the forefront throughout my political career, which started way back in the 70s and 80s. Came to fruition 2007 when the Scottish National Party became the government in the Scottish Parliament. 2011 we had a majority government and the time was right to put forward a referendum date, which is obviously 18th September 2014.
Can Scotland technically can it afford to be independent?
Very much so. You may listen to our opponents who will say we can't, but Scotland actually...
Not only to reports and whatever, but we talked to the people actually, and some of them had certain kind of, question marks around whether you can be independent in Scotland.
Yes, I think it's good that people ask questions. We certainly can be independent. We actually contribute more to the UK economy than we receive back. And to let you understand, we receive what they call the Barnett formula. So all of our monies raised in Scotland goes to Westminster, and Westminster give us back some monies called the Barnett formula. So it's similar to perhaps you having a salary. You give me your salary, I take some of that salary off you and give you the remaining monies back. That is the way it works at the moment in Scotland. We are saying we can afford to raise all our taxes, our economy can be better, our GDP can be better, and more importantly, we can actually have a better country in Scotland if we're independent.
Now, are you going to have the same monarchy, or you're going to do another kind of ruling and governance with somebody else on the top of the state?
As it stands at the moment, the Queen will still be head of state in independent Scotland. Who's to say what will happen in the future? I certainly believe that that should be up to the Scottish people. Perhaps in a couple of years after the referendum and the independence result, we can put to the Scottish people, do you still wish a monarchy?
If we try to define the word independence in Scotland, if you mean here that you will stay under the umbrella of the Queen, right? We're going to go into the technicalities of other questions, but if we want to say independence here, what does it mean to be independent?
To be independent is to be responsible, and it's also to do, I believe, the best for your country. And we cannot do that at the moment when we don't have all the levers of power. We have control over the microeconomics of our country. We don't have control over the macroeconomics, such as taxation, the welfare system, trident nuclear weapons.
What's going to happen?
Wars.
This is a focal question. What's going to happen to the UK nuclear arsenal that is on the shores of Scotland?
Yes, well, we obviously had a debate, in the Scottish National Party. The resolution that came forward has always been that we will remove Trident, we'll remove it from the shores of the Clyde, which is only a few miles down the road from this office.
Would they accept that?
They have to accept it. It's the will of the Scottish people. It's actually the will of the Scottish Parliament. We had a debate in the Scottish Parliament. Only the Conservatives did not vote to remove Trident from the Clyde. So there's a majority of political parties in the Scottish Parliament that has voted unanimously to remove Trident from the Clyde. That will happen. It will be removed. What the rest of the UK, whatever it may be called, after independence, does with that, they want to take it to Portsmouth, Davenport, that would be up to them.
Now, who is eligible to vote for independence in Scotland?
Anyone who has born here, who lives here and contributes in Scotland will be eligible to vote.
Any age group, you mean?
From 16-year-old.
Okay.
We have it's went through royal assent. 16 to 18-year-olds will now be able to vote in the referendum. It's always been our policy that 16-year-olds should be able to vote in any election. For this referendum, 16-year-olds will be able to vote.
Right. What currency? Did you study the issue of if you're going to go for an independence, what currency is going to be used by the people in Scotland?
The currency will be matched to is the pound sterling. That will be the currency it is matched to. That's not unusual. Many countries have the Swiss franc. Many other countries are matched to the dollar. That will be the overall currency. We already have our Scottish £10, £20 notes. We have Scottish currency there. It means it's matched to the currency under, the UK.
Right.
That's not unusual to do that, the sterling.
Okay. But did you think of anything specific in mind, like you have something to tell the people to answer such kind of questions, that we're planning to have something as such?
There has been, some people have come forward and said we need to have our own currency. That's not to say it won't be ruled out in the past, but in an independent Scotland, it's so much easier, and it happens all over the world, is to match your currency with this pound sterling. So therefore, obviously, the economics of currency will go up or down depending on how the pound sterling is. At the moment, we do not sit on the board of the Bank of England because we don't have direct representation. In an independent Scotland, when we have the dual currency, and that is what we're matched with, we'll be able to sit on that board, so we'll have a direct representation there.
Right. According to your opponents, Ms. White, that, strength is in unity. So why should Scotland pull out of this strength?
Well, we don't see that strength here south of the border. We have many people who are living in poverty in a country which is rich, in every way you look at it.
In resources, you mean?
Energy sources, not just that, the environment as well. We're world leaders in green energy, which is obviously the energy that's going forward at the moment. Strathclyde University is a world leader in green energy. We feel as though we could do so much more for our people in an independent Scotland. and we feel that the union with the rest of the UK is outdated and it's not working for the Scottish people.
Now, concerning the issue of the Scots who work at UK governmental offices and the Royal Mail and many other offices, what's going to happen to them? Are they going to be out of job? Are they going to continue but working under this umbrella which you are going to pull out from?
Well, it's an interesting question you posed. At this moment in time, anyone who works for the Royal Mail under the UK system, under the union, are in danger of losing their jobs.
So what's going to happen?
Because they're privatising it. But we have said in an independent Scotland, the Royal Mail will still be a public service. So an independent Scotland will take over the running of the Royal Mail in Scotland, and the employees will be guaranteed their job. But if you don't, it's going to be privatised under the union. There's a real safeguard for public employees in an independent Scotland.
The vision is a bit blurred here. What does independence here mean? Just to say that Scotland is independent, it's a state of its own?
Scotland be independent to make its mind up on the macroeconomics of our country. When we talk about the Queen as head of state, Australia has a Queen of head of state. It's a figurehead, and it's never held Australia back in the way it wishes to push forward for the economy. So there's really nothing to be afraid of in that particular one. The currency is a logical step at the moment. It's much easier to go forward, and then we look at it as we go further down the line. You mentioned the Royal Mail, but as I said to you at the moment, the Royal Mail obviously is called the Royal Mail. It's a UK institution, but the UK government want to privatise it.
Yes.
So therefore there will no longer be a Royal Mail. We have said in an independent Scotland,
It's going to be a
we will
private.
have, it might not necessarily be called Royal Mail, it could be called Scottish Mail, but it will be a public service. It will not,
In Scotland?
In Scotland it will
Okay.
be a public service. It will not be privatised. So therefore the opposite is really true. In an independent Scotland, the public services will be protected. At the moment in the Union, they're not protected.
Now, what will Scotland's share of the national debt be?
Scotland's share of the national debt, I can't remember the figure completely off my head, top of my head, but I think it's something like £550 million, which seems a lot. But we, as I said in the earlier introduction, if you're independent, you take your responsibilities seriously as well. England also has a national debt. They will have to pay their national debt off. We will take that responsibility. We will contribute to pay it off. It's only right. But if England say that we cannot go any further with the currency, whatever it may be, tries to stop certain issues within Scotland once we're independent, we don't have to pay off that national debt. So it works both ways. We're happy to take our responsibilities, but the other countries have to take their responsibilities seriously also.
Right. Now, oil is one of the prime resources of Scotland. What other resources do you have that can help you support your economy as an independent state?
I think oil is one of the resources. It's possibly not the most important resource now. People seem to think it's the only resource we have, but we have green energy, and that is the way forward. We have wind power, we have wave energy. It's all been taken forward in Scotland. We're one of the best within Europe pushing this new form of energy and technology forward. So oil is a blessing, but it's not the only one. We have gas as well. We have great natural resources. We have our people, and that's very important, that we have our people also who are willing to go forward and have ambitions. And I think that is a really important asset, your people who are looking forward and positively, and it's up to governments to be able to give them that.
Right. Ms. Sandra White, allow us to stop now for a short break, and then when we come back, we will discuss further your argument for yes to the referendum of independence of Scotland. إذا من الداخل سيعود بعد هذا الفاصل، ابقوا معنا. الاستفتاء استقلال اسكتلندا القريب سيعطي الاسكتلنديين فرصة اختيار مسار مختلف وأفضل لبلادهم، وكيف ستتمكن اسكتلندا من الدفاع عن نفسها إلى هواجس أخرى تتصدى لها النائب في البرلمان الاسكتلندي وإحدى قادة الحزب الوطني الاسكتلندي ساندرا وايت.
We will have our own army and navy. We will have no need for nuclear weapons, and I would hope, and I know, that we will look to a peacekeeping force. At the moment, we don't want to go into any illegal wars, and certainly we would not go down that route. But we will have our own army and our own navy under the auspices of the Scottish Army and Navy, and we will be similar to Ireland and other smaller countries.
Right. Now, what will the tax system look like? Did you also put this on the paper? Did you plan for it?
We're producing the white paper at the end of November this year, which goes into all of the questions you've asked regarding tax also. We have always favoured local income tax based on the ability to pay rather than the way it is at the moment, which is a very regressive taxation. So certainly that's one of the taxation questions and answers that is on the white paper, looking at ability to pay rather than the regressive taxation.
Well, Scottish External Affairs Minister Mr. Hamza Yusuf said that the looming independence referendum will give Scots a chance to choose a different and better path for Scotland.
Yes.
Your comment, please.
Well, absolutely. At the moment, we are looking at the Jimmy Reid Foundation in regards to looking at how we can have a better and a different Scotland. It's called the Common Weal, and it looks at more Nordic Scandinavian areas of taxation and social welfare, which I think is absolutely wonderful. And picking up on Hamza's point is the fact that we can become much more international. And I think that's something that really the Scottish people want.
Right, but Ms. White, sometimes you resort to a kind of rhetoric that you use the word true Scots. Are people who are pro-independence true Scots, and the others who are against it not true Scots?
I wouldn't say that they're not true Scots, it's just that their beliefs are entirely different from my beliefs, so I do apologise if that's the way it came across. But no, people who have the idea they still wish to have the Union are no lesser Scots than I or others are. But to me, they're keeping us trapped within a Union which is not doing Scottish people any good at all.
But there is also some kind of severe attack going from the SNP towards the Labour and the Liberal Democrats and the Better Together campaign, and all the way from the Better Together campaign towards the SNP. It's a ferocious battle, and you know, out of talking to other leaders from other groups and parties, we realize that the battle is going to be very tough. Now, let me go back to your comments commenting after Alistair Darling's speech in Glasgow, in which the No campaign leader attacked independence. You said, "How incredibly sad that the first thing Alistair Darling seems to have thought of when he saw the dreadful humanitarian crisis unfolding in Syria was how to score political points from it." Explain it, please.
Well, I was just going to say that I think everything that we have said in the Yes campaign and the party and people who are non-party, we have tried to put forward a positive message. What can be good about Scotland if we're independent. What I feel very sad about in the comments from Alistair Darling and others, that instead of the Syria crisis, for instance, and other areas, instead of concentrating on that, they're using that as a tool against Scottish independence and self-determination. I find that very shallow politics, and I thought it has to be highlighted that the three parties who make up the Union and want to stay within the UK are very, very negative, and their policies and their points they put across paints, you know, people who live in Scotland, the Scottish people, as not good enough to have their own independent country.
Why are they resorting to this negative approach towards independence in Scotland?
I think it can only be that they're afraid. They're
Afraid of what?
They're afraid that
Afraid
Scotland
of being
will
independent?
It has to be, because if you're not afraid of being independent...
Or maybe they are fearful of what's going to come next. Maybe they are fearful of the fact that they might go in a path where there is no way back.
Well, everyone has to go in a path from a child crawling to walking to running to living at home with your parents to leaving home. That's all part of becoming independent. That's all part of experiencing life. Surely that's what it's all about. It's not about staying stagnant.
Yes, but here allow me to move on to the Labour Party debate and rhetoric that if ever this independence campaign wins, it's going to be a fatal blow to the Labour that has been for the 113 years in Parliament and in politics. Why are they taking it so personally?
I think possibly you did speak to Joanne Lamont, and I haven't saw the recording, so I'm assuming you've asked her that question. But I can't understand why, if a party who say they've been there for 113 years and they are left-wing and they look after the people, they want to see the socialists, why would you blame another party, i.e. the SNP, or even other countries' want for independence and self-determination, the reason that your party is going to implode? The only reason I can see that is that, one, they're frightened of what's going to happen, as I said before, but they don't know where they're going themselves. They're absolutely in a land where they don't know where they're genuinely going.
Now, let me just move on also to one of your opponents of the independence, Mr. Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Mr. Willie Rennie, who's also an MSP. According to him, the SNP, the Scottish National Party, they have the wrong priorities for Scotland, and they have put campaigning for independence ahead of health, transport, education, justice, and the environment. That became clear when they set out their annual plan for government. Independence was in, but so much else was out.
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but I actually, beat Willie Rennie many years ago in council when he stood as a candidate, and I also did, and I beat him. So that's my first point that I'd like to get across. It never fails to amaze me what the Liberal Democrats will say. We have been re-elected 2001, 2007, we were elected with one of majority. 2011, we were elected with a majority. We broke the whole system of the Scottish Parliament's election, the Dakhel system. We wouldn't have been elected if our policies weren't what the Scottish people wanted. When you look at our record compared to the Lib Dems' record, there's hardly any of them left at all. So I think Willie Rennie has his priorities wrong, but I would like to take them one by one. Education, for instance. Scotland, free education, based on the ability to learn, not on the ability to pay. Don't have that down south in England. The Labour Party want to bring back tuition frees, as does the Liberal Democrats. Transport, concessionary fares for the elderly. The Labour Party wants to get rid of that. I really don't know what the Lib Dems policy is on that. So everything that the Lib Dems are saying is based on basically
what about health?
Health, health is another really good one. Free prescription charges. We're not privatising National Health Service in Scotland. Labour Party want to bring back prescription charges, and the Liberal Democrats, who are in coalition down south with the Tories, are privatising the health service. So everything that Mr Rennie says via his leadership of the Liberal Democrats is just absolutely fantasy land. We have delivered for the Scottish people, but we could deliver so much more if we have control, particularly over welfare and obviously over defence, over all of the assets that Scotland has. We can have control, we can have so much better life in Scotland.
What about the opinion poll?
So at the moment, basically, if you speak to people on the ground, that is where the answers are. In the Yes campaign last night, there was a Yes meeting in Leith, and people were turned away from the doors because it was so busy. it was packed out. 300 people turned up. Not all SNP members. Here in Glasgow, 180 people turned up for a meeting in Partick Borough Halls. Not all SNP people, to learn about what it is. What we are doing here in Scotland, in the Yes campaign and in the SNP, is grassroots politics. Speaking to people on the ground. And that's where the answers are. And come September 18th, 2014, the people who are saying in the opinion polls that yes vote is going down are going to get a real surprise.
Now, there is something called the cybernats, which is one of the problems faced by the SNP, and those are so much effective across the internet, and they attack anybody who dares to question the SNP policy or independence. And actually, the Daily Telegraph, they referred to them as toxic, anonymous individuals. What do you say concerning this?
Well, this is a problem. Lots of them are. I don't know who the cybernats are, where they come from. They might not even come from Scotland, for all we know. We used to various forms of politics where people do things that not necessarily for the right reasons. I don't know, as I said, who they are. Certainly the SNP does not condone that type of, bullying, I would say anyway. And it doesn't do the Yes campaign any good whatsoever. And we have came out and said that they should desist from doing that. But you also have it on the other side as well. And they should be just telling their so-called, in inverted commas, supporters to desist from that. The people of Scotland will decide. It won't be decided by opinion polls and cybernats, but they should, or any other grouping such as that, they should desist because it's up to the people, not up to
So
them.
you put everything finally in the court of the people of Scotland, the Scots, we don't want to say the true Scots, the Scots who are going to decide whether to be independent or not. Right, member of the Scottish Parliament and leading member of the Scottish National Party, SNP, Ms. Sandra White, thanks a million for this interview from your office in Glasgow.
Shukran, and thank you very much as well. Thank
Our
you.
pleasure, you're most welcome, ma'am. إذا لقاء جديد في الأسبوع المقبل مع ضيف جديد وقضية جديدة ودائما من الداخل. للمزيد من التواصل بريدنا theinside@almayadeen.net. إذا theinside@almayadeen.net. من كل فريق عمل من الداخل من كل الميادين من اسكتلندا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.